What if someone told you that our governments can't get the economy right because they don't understand it? Our governments, and all the economists they listen to as well. Would you think that was crazy? Impossible? What if they said they could prove it? Simply, not using tricks with numbers or dense theory to lose you in? In 2007, the theory and modelling all these people use all over the world said the economy was doing fine. It was only going to go up and a crash couldn't happen. Then a crash happened. We call it the global financial crisis now, or the Great Recession. The suffering it caused was immense and still goes on today. No one saw it coming. Except, some people did. People who used different ideas and a different system to analyse the economy. This system is often called Modern Monetary Theory, MMT. The people who used this system predicted the GFC, and they said so, on record. But the system being used now said it wouldn't happen, couldn't happen, so they were ignored. Unfortunately, we all now know who was right. This example is one of many. The system our governments rely on to understand the economy and make decisions is doomed to repeat its failures. It's a failure, but its champions and devotees are too stubborn to admit it. So what's this other system that can and does predict the crash before it happens? MMT acknowledges that government spending isn't like an ordinary household or business budget. When we do a budget, we all know that we take the money we earn and that's how much we can spend. If we want to spend more, we have to either earn more or borrow and go into debt. But if we spend less, we have savings. Thinking that government spending works basically the same way, they get all the taxes and other money they collect from us and decide what to spend it on, is an easy way to look at it. Very easy and very wrong, for one simple reason. The government doesn't pile up our taxes in some big vault to be doled out, because it's not the Middle Ages anymore. All government spending and taxation exists electronically on computers. When the government spends, it creates new money on a screen. A government that has its own, totally owned currency has the power to make new money, and that's how it pays for things. When we pay taxes into the electronic system, that money is deleted. A government budget is played out in the creating and destroying of its own currency. The big news here is that the government has the ability to spend as much as it chooses to. There are reasons to decide to stop spending, but running out of money isn't one of them. There is no limit to how much it can spend because it can create unlimited new money. Of course, there is no such thing as a free lunch, and there is a consequence. If the government makes too much new money, the value of the money can fall.
Okay, I need to debunk this whole fucking myth that we made up about printing money is gonna devalue the currency when that's just strictly wrong and incorrect. And I'll give you this guy's example so you understand how value really works. So I'll use Netflix. Why do you value Netflix? I'm guessing most of you guys are going to answer, well, I value Netflix because Netflix ties itself to the content, right? So let's take that same analogy, that same concept, and just apply it with the currency. The reason you value the currency is because it's tied itself to the goods and services, such as food, water, shelter, electricity, gasoline, things that we need to keep each other alive. And so by doing that by default, the currency automatically now has value. Because mind you, not because of the currency by itself, because if you do not have the currency, you cannot have the things that you really, really want. Same with Netflix. You really honestly just give a shit about Netflix and you see it valuable because Netflix is tying itself to the content. If it's not tied itself to the content and you can get that shit outside of Netflix, then you don't see Netflix valuable at all. Like it's honestly, it's nothing to you. Like you're really not gonna care about it. But if you cannot get that content outside of Netflix, then okay, now you perceive Netflix valuable. So just take that same concept and apply it with a currency. That's how value works. So please shut the fuck. And I say this with all due respect. People that keep saying that printing money is gonna devalue the currency, please, for the love of God, shut the fuck up, because you're straight up lying to people and you just don't know what you're talking about. If somebody has to use the currency, whether that be frequently or less frequently, doesn't matter. If you have to use it at all, period, or in general, it is valuable.
Would any of you mop the floor for 1 donkey coin? Probably not. How about for 2 donkey coins? Probably not, because they're completely worthless. Now, if I had 2 guards with a machine gun waiting by the door and you had to hand in 1 of the donkey coins to get out, would you then change your mind? Everybody would, and everybody would try to mop the floor because you would need to in order to earn the donkey coins, as you would need to pay 1 of them to the guards in order to get out the door.
Makes too much new money, the value of the money can fall, and inflation gets out of hand.
Okay, so I also need to address this whole fucking myth and notion that it's gonna create inflation. No, that's not. Printing money, it's not automatically gonna create inflation, and you're missing a very key fucking component. Because let's say what inflation is. Inflation is basically a point where the demand is very high and the supply chain is very low, where it's unfortunately not meeting demand. And so now that we established that, the only way that it could create inflation by us printing money is when, let's say, the government that's just print that money, is giving it to the corporations. The corporations and the companies are using that money to not increase the productions of the goods and services that we, the consumers, need and that we consume. And so those type of corporations, they actually, instead of using that money to increase production, they use it to buy a Lamborghini, a Bugatti, a luxurious house, a yacht. Like, basically that money that the government just lent, they did not use it to betterment the economy. They use that money that was just printed to hurt the economy and basically, increase inflation, because they never use it to how it was originally supposed to be used, which is use this money that we're about to lend you to increase production of the goods and services, and that the supply chain can actually meet demand.
There's nothing to prevent the federal government from creating as much money as it wants and paying it to somebody. The question is, how do you set up a system which assures that the real assets are created, which those benefits are employed to purchase? So it's not a question of security. It's a question of the structure of a financial system which assures that the real resources are created for retirement, as distinct from the cash. The cash itself is nice to have, but it's got to be in the context of the real resources being created at the time those benefits are paid, so that you can purchase real resources with the benefits, which of course are cash.
Mm-hmm.
The value of the money can fall, and inflation gets out of hand. When a government taxes, it removes money from the system and helps keep a handle on inflation.
Yeah, but that's really the point. You technically don't have to. This is why I'm saying that taxing shouldn't even be a thing. Like, you shouldn't even get taxed in general. We should just abolish it. Same goes with, let's say, increase prices on the goods and services. No, don't. You don't have to increase prices on anything. All you simply have to do, because like I already originally established, the government has the money. We have the money. The money is not the problem. It's more of the problem more is that, do we have the people? Do we have the resources to do certain things? So in reality, you don't even have to think of just taxing and taking money away or have to increase prices. It's just more focus on getting the people. Hell, especially we have now in this era, we have robotics, we have automations. So most of this can really be solved. So yes, just focus on that, and just focus on the money that you're giving to the corporations. They fucking use it to increase the productions of the goods and services, and it's just not simply for themselves. And they are investing to flourish and build up this economy.
taxes, it removes money from the system and helps keep a handle on inflation. Taxes are not a method to collect money that can then be spent. They're a method to help regulate the system after the spending has happened. How much a government spends and taxes isn't about balancing both sides of the ledger or filling and emptying the vault. It's about how much it wants to spend versus how much inflation it is prepared to accept. If a government and its advisors understand this, they can make an informed decision about what is a responsible amount of spending to give the most benefit to the country. But if the decision makers think it's still the Middle Ages with a vault to fill, then we'd better get ready for more crashes, because they won't be. They'll still be promising that a crash won't happen, it can't happen. MMT will be saying otherwise. Who will you believe?